Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovator Coffee, an English podcast that bridges the gap between people and the world of AI and innovation. Follow us to explore the top AI applications, ecosystem insights, and the emerging trends.
So I guess, with this kind of background, the next kind of section, we kind of want to dive into some of the future trends that you guys see in the kind of intersection of AI and crypto, given I think, the boom of ZeroG was kind of seeing how ChatGPT will really, have put a new face for AI. And then this is, the kind of concept is the interception. So tell us a bit more about before ChatGPT, how AI potentially has been working or influencing development of blockchain and Web3, and after ChatGPT, how that has changed. Maybe, just for the audience kind of knowledge, tell us a little bit more about the background.
Yeah, I mean, AI has been in the works for 6 decades, but until there was a killer application, quote unquote, which was this chat interface for ChatGPT, there wasn't really a compelling use case to utilize AI on a day-to-day basis. I mean, yes, you had a lot of different types of companies using things like natural language processing, sentiment analysis, machine learning type of applications, but they were very strict. It wasn't kind of like you could just put any random prompt and then a machine responds to you in completely human natural language and then figures something out for you. And you couldn't just easily utilize that to have a completely new workflow. And that really changed with ChatGPT 3. And so that was a big moment. And then what many people are not talking about yet, but what will become more and more prevalent, is that there's a spectrum of applications. You've got sort of personal applications on one side, and then more what I call societal applications on another side. So societal are things like logistics systems, manufacturing systems, administrative systems, governance systems that can be run by AI agents. And in that type of world, wouldn't you want to actually be able to verify what goes on behind the scenes? Because these are mission critical applications. Imagine, a bunch of AI agents running an airplane or an airport. And how do we know that airplanes aren't going to crash into each other? So this is where we need things like verification. This is where we need to understand where the data came from, how the models are running in production. Is there model drift that's happening? Were there data injection attacks that happen? What are the weights and biases of that model? And so for these mission critical applications, it's very dangerous to just basically, go to somebody like OpenAI, which is closed AI, unfortunately, where it's a complete black box, and just trust them that they can actually align these systems for human interests.
Before ChatGPT, there were also many interesting AI generated stuff. There were several small cases, mainly used by games, or for example, I have seen games that capture some of the better players' behavior and habits. So when they play, they can generate a bot to play against the other players. And that is one user case I saw before, which has been used in some Web2 games before, but not for Web3. And also, I have seen a lot of AI generated digital figure. So mainly generate the voice, the image, and also the video. But I don't think they are from the AI thinking side. So that is why most of them are mainly helping a lot of players and socials and fans, those kind of stuff. But after ChatGPT 3, I think a lot of people have built their habit into interacting with AI, which is quite different from before.
Because we talked about kind of the base technology, and Dafu, you kind of mentioned how they can be applied in different industry. I guess I really want to kind of gather the opinion on, let's say, some of the probably most kind of viable use cases for industries, using this kind of intersection of AI and Web3 right now. What are some best use cases you have seen right now? Maybe give us 1 or 2 examples, that maybe people can see it coming, and then it's going to be pretty much applicable to a lot of consumers or businesses.
Yeah, definitely. Frankly speaking, right now, there are a lot of different AI plus Web3 stuff, like decentralized GPU, which was very popular last year. And also the AI agents, kind of quite popular for last Q, and combined with meme. So actually the Web3 community embraces all kinds of AI Web3 projects. However, when talking about the most impressive or interesting AI plus Web3 stuff, of course, it is ZeroG. Yeah, they are building the decentralized AI operating system, so and the AI layer 1, so which is pretty huge because like in Web3 industry, you have to have a better infrastructure to build buildings on top of it. And there have been a lot of people trying on that, but haven't been successful. However, because of Michael's team, I believe ZeroG has the potential and the best potential on this part. And with that said, so Michael, I believe you have met a lot of other AI Web3 projects. Would you like to jump in here, like Web3 user cases?
There's kind of this use case that's about social media kind of influencer use cases where we've seen a ton of agents proliferate. So there's one company called Kaito, for example, which essentially tokenizes attention. And the number one influencer on there for a long time has been an AI agent called AI XBT. And so there you can kind of see some of the power of agents. They've been able to fine-tune a particular model so that it consistently creates really interesting, relevant content for the Web3 industry, or Web3 meets AI industry as well. And so as a result, it also keeps gathering kind of the most points. And an agent, unlike human beings, doesn't need to sleep, for example. Can have multiple conversations at the same time, can have, respond to things at the same time. And so as a result of that, that's just kind of a taste of things to come. So that's a more simple use case. But in the future, anything that can be built on a centralized on the centralized AI side can be built on a decentralized AI side. It's just going to take 1 or 2 years to fully catch up from an infrastructure standpoint. But once we're there, then the aperture is wide open. Kind of like I mentioned, like medical coding, medical diagnosis, automating full work streams. In fact, we've built a new NFT standard, for example, and that NFT standard, what it allows you to do is for the first time to say that this particular AI agent actually belongs to me, because now I can hold this NFT in my wallet, and that NFT has the private metadata and keys for that agent embedded in it, which then means I can say this wallet belongs to me and therefore this agent belongs to me. Not only that, you can then create fully autonomous organizations where you could have a CEO agent, for example, that then owns other NFTs that are, let's say, a CMO, a CTO agent, maybe chief finance officer agent, and it's going to be a pretty wild world. Going to happen.
I think, it's really exciting when we think about it, but I think one of the fundamental questions I have is, if everything can be built on a Web 2 environment, like the biggest value to build that on a Web 3 ecosystem is
verification and true ownership. Those are some of the key pieces, and then provenance as well. So the verification matters because, let's say we go back to this example of airport. If somebody says, like, I'm running this airport on this particular model, it's open source Llama 3 model that's 450 billion parameters. But then the person that's providing that model all of a sudden says, like, you know what, it's actually less costly if I just provide a 70 billion parameter model. And that may be the difference between an airplane crashing into another, for example. This is like a super oversimplified example. But on the other side, the person is expecting a different model that that person is getting. And that literally can be the difference between issues that happen in the system. And so how can you actually truly verify that the model that you're getting is the one that you're expecting as well? So that's a key benefit of decentralized AI. Then provenance is important too, because you've got essentially a blockchain, many blocks that show you the history of what happened over time. And so if you actually want to ensure that there was no data poisoning, you can actually trace all the data that went into training a particular model. And then you can also do attribution and say, if a particular data set was actually called and it belonged to this particular user, and there was a cost to this inference, you can then also do micropayments back to that initial user. So that provenance actually can give you some really interesting kind of superpowers. And then finally, there's this aspect of alignment as well. Blockchains were designed for adversarial systems. So basically, anybody can join a blockchain and people can try to mess with the chain. People can try to do a 51% attack. They can try to do all types of nefarious things. But there's consensus mechanisms that have slashing and economic incentive mechanisms to prevent these kind of nefarious things from happening. Why aren't we using that for aligning AI models or AI agents as well? So that would be another benefit alignment.
So, obviously you guys are very committed to what you're doing right now. But one of the questions I have is like, as someone who kind of really understands the ecosystem right now, just to say, okay, if you're given another opportunity to start another startup right now, like what are going to be the area you wanted to build in? I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, what do you think is the next big thing, just, given your knowledge about the ecosystem, and then you feel like you're going to bid on it?
From my perspective, I would say embedded AI is kind of a next frontier. So meaning things like humanoid robots and just embedding it into kind of daily workflows. And as part of that, really ensuring that those particular AI agents that are embedded, that they actually serve humanity's needs and are consistently there for abundance rather than to be weaponized. So that's what I think is going to be a big next trend kind of in AI. And then the other thing that people are not talking about enough, I think that we are also looking at kind of getting into, is building lots and lots of small language models that outperform the large language models in some aspects, and then putting them together through some type of, let's say, LLM middleware, because we think that's where distributed computing and power can actually come into play and build models significantly faster that can have better results in the end.
Yeah, I definitely believe that AI Web3 is right now at the early stage, speaking from my perspective, and it has a huge potential. Right now, frank speaking, I'm more, if talking about some specific directions, I think I'm quite interested in confidential computing from hardware levels on crypto. And also there's another one which I heard about last year and did some research about it, which is post-quantum computing. So because a lot of people think that right now with the AI technologies, so quantum computing gonna be developing quite fast, and eventually it's gonna be easy to hack. It's gonna be easily hacking people's wallet on crypto. And frank speaking, from their side, they don't think it's gonna be happening quite soon because they believe the quantum computing will be commercialized for another 4 to 8 years or something like that. So we still have time to fight against that. And there are a lot of scientists working on the post, or you can say anti-quantum computing side. So I'm more looking to projects working on this direction that can help better secure the entire Web3 stuff.
Michael, what kind of value you try to deliver to the customer, and what are the ideal customer profile you guys are looking for? Yeah.
So we're building essentially a new operating system for decentralized AI, if you will. So we've got the core execution stack, which is a layer 1. On top of that, we've built a decentralized storage system, so you can essentially handle all types of storage found in Web 2, which is log storage, key value storage, transactional storage, all without any performance trade-offs to Web 2 at a cost that's up to 80% less. And so kind of a compelling use case there for enterprise customers, if you will. And then we've got a compute layer. Right now, inference is live. It's fully verifiable, permissionless, decentralized. And then soon fine-tuning will be live. And then later, we're also building things like distillation and fully on-chain training. So those are kind of the key components. And we're looking for builders that want to build applications, AI agents, people that want to build other AI infrastructure. For example, we're not building our own vector database. So if somebody else wants to build a vector database on top of our decentralized storage system, then that's awesome, just as an example. So there's definitely applications on the infrastructure side as well, and definitely looking to partner with those builders.
Yeah, compared to other company, like similar companies, right? What's your biggest advantage here?
Basically, the biggest advantage is performance and the ecosystem itself. So we have the largest Web3 meets AI ecosystem. We have more than 300 companies building on top of us. And so you're part of a really strong community. The other part is the performance pieces. We've basically figured out for the first time how to fully horizontally scale both the execution and the data throughput environment so that you can actually make any application perform in a decentralized context like you would want in a centralized context without the regular performance trade-offs and cost trade-offs that are associated with that. And so it's really applicable for extreme use cases like AI type of workloads. And so no other company in the space can claim that.
Let's talk about some challenges regarding AI plus crypto, right? So first one, people always think about crypto, Web3, they're talking about decentralization, right? Well, AI is kind of like distributed. So like, do decentralization and AI have inherent contradictions? How should they be balanced?
Yeah, and usually I think people think about it this way because they say like, well, in order to build a frontier model, we need to have a huge data center, and it's all about more scale. More GPUs equals more parameters equals bigger models equals better. That's kind of the paradigm. It's like the centralized perspective. But just like you've seen with Bitcoin as a network, and I read a research article a couple of years ago that basically said that all of Bitcoin's computing power is like 100 times what Google's data centers provide in terms of hashing rate. So you can see the power of distributed computing. So it could actually open up the aperture and build potentially even larger models when kind of put together in a smart economic way as well. And so that's where decentralization actually benefit kind of the frontier models of AI as well. So while we're not there yet from an infrastructure standpoint, I think we're in this like 2-year catch-up phase. Once it's there, it'll be very powerful because then anybody can contribute to AI and benefit from AI, and then AI becomes a public good. And so that's the vision that we're really pushing forward.
Wow, sounds like in the future we can have like an AI DAO or something.
Fully autonomous organizations, exactly.
Yeah. So what are the main obstacles currently facing on the AI plus crypto industry? And what are the biggest challenges in running AI on the blockchain?
Yeah, Dafu or Ada, do you guys want to jump in first?
Right now, there are a lot of AI technology, mainly controlled by centralized companies. And just like Michael mentioned, so OpenAI or Close AI, right? So they haven't fully open up their resources and network to the general public, and that I would say that definitely caused some problems for the entire Web3 industry. And if they open it up, we can definitely grow faster on this. And also besides everything, besides all these, so I'm eager to see more web AI technology deeper related into Web3, because like we mentioned before, AI agents or like decentralized GPU or figure or anything. So I haven't seen like a very deep technology of AI into Web3, like deeper machine learning or those kind of stuff. So I believe that with all the decentralized AI projects on Web3, so we can make this process faster and definitely bridge the gap between AI and Web3 and makes AI and Web3 growing faster and faster. Yeah.
I think the challenge is manifold. I think a lot of modeling still updating and consistently have new version and new model show up, and it's really hard for people to keep the speed of innovation. And within the innovation, some innovation is really disruptive. So that's one thing. The second is the competition is unknown. So a lot of people innovating at the same time. So you don't know what you're facing, really what you're running against. One simple example is when a lot of people build an AI agent around OpenAI, and when OpenAI was shut down for I think it's 6 hours, a lot of business get impacted. And when OpenAI decide to launch in the marketplace, allowing people to create the AI agent, a lot of business also getting like wrapped up. So it's really disruptive. So it's like you innovating with unknown, you're running against among other people, but at the same time, you don't know what are the centralized platform are going to do. So your business is not really, you kind of like putting your own lifeline on other people's hand. I think with Web3 AI adoptions, from my point of view, it's more on a lot of people actually don't really know what is AL1, AL2, like how actually utilize technology in the Web3 space for AI. So they have a lot of knowledge gap for people to actually get familiar with the language of Web3 and able to utilize different tools available today, or even need to have some tools to build for the Web2 AI builder to build in Web3 kind of like space. So they have some both in terms of knowledge gap, also tooling gaps we need to close. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. It's kind of like at the beginning of the internet or like a SaaS solution, right? All those problems actually happen at that time for the similar cases as well. So
yeah, in Mandarin they have a saying like 百花齐放阶段，就是百家争鸣，但是会有一个统一。Later on, they were going to have certain winners. So right now, it's everybody running against the innovation, but soon you'll see who are the what we're trying to see is any incubator project have the capability or capacity to grow to become a winner. And also if the business model or if the team have the capacity or growth potential to create beautiful, positive reinforced loop, not only have some beautiful story, but actually in the back end have the technology and also have the community ecosystem to actually run a little bit longer. That's why in the Accelerator, one of the emphasis is we help our portfolio company to actually get some funding, because with money they can actually have some longer runway. They can have some multiple time like trying to attempt and adjust the product, hire right people to working on the problem. So yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about your SaaS comparison too is kind of this idea of creating a one-stop shop solution. So if you go to OpenAI today or Anthropic, you have a set of APIs and you can just call them for like fine-tuning, training, inference, and have different models and so on. If you wanted to do the same thing in Web3 right now, it's a little bit confusing. First, you're like, well, what do I use as a verification standard for inference? Do I use OPML? Do I use ZKML? Do I use TEMLs? And then you have to like do a bunch of research. And then you're like, well, what do I use for fine-tuning now? Well, I need a vector database. Okay, where do I go for that? And then where do I store that? Does it work on IPFS? Do I go to ZeroG? And then it's what do I use as a fine-tuning methodology? Do I go back to centralized systems because there's nothing available on a decentralized world? And before you know it, you have like 20 different things you're looking at just to build one agent, for example. And so we want to just simplify that. And the way we do it is not that we build everything in-house like an Anthropic or an OpenAI, but to use the power of the community to come together so we can offer different types of approaches that still feel like it's one integrated whole.
Yeah, it sounds like there are a lot of innovation points there. Let's see how maybe some people listen to our podcast will pick up some piece and try to resolve the problem.